Buckle up because Sir Keir Starmer's latest interview has sent shockwaves through British politics, promising no new taxes while leaving the door slightly ajar for unforeseen circumstances. The Labour leader is walking a political tight RPP, but is this the cautious pragmatism of a seasoned leader or the hallmark of a government losing its grip with voters growing restless over skyrocketing costs and an economy buckling under pressure? The timing couldn't be worse for Starmer's popularity to nosedive. Yet here we are with his Chancellor Rachel Reeves, backpedaling on previous assurances, and farmers rallying in outrage over new inheritance tax rules. Is Labour cracking under the strain? Now, let's dive into the latest bombshells from the last 24 hours. If you haven't already, smash that like button and stay tuned for the full breakdown of what could be Labour's most disastrous misstep. Yet, let's uncover what's really happening behind the scenes. Sir Keir Starmer's promise not to introduce more taxes before the next election might have sounded like music to votes' ears at first. But his admission that he can't completely rule them out if unforeseen circumstances arise has left a bitter aftertaste to many. It's a red flag signaling more pain to come. Recent history hasn't been kind to leaders making vague assurances, and Starmer's hesitancy only adds to the growing unease even worse. Rachel Reeves, his chancellor, had just weeks earlier doubled down on a no new taxes promise, only to swiftly back away from her commitment. Now the government finds itself trapped between the promises it can't afford to keep and the realities of an economy teetering on the edge. One of Labour's biggest blunders has been its October budget, a package meant to stabilize the country, but which has done little but infuriate business owners and spark protests. Farmers in particular have taken to the streets, decrying changes to inheritance tax as a betrayal of the agricultural sector. Tractors have rolled into Westminster, and signs accusing Starmer of being anti-farmer dot the streets. These protests have caught the public's attention, turning a policy tweak into a full-blown scandal. Labour had promised to support rural communities, yet their latest moves threaten the very livelihoods of family-run farms. Meanwhile, employers across the UK are reeling from another measure in the budget. The rise in national insurance contributions. Businesses argue that the hike will drain funds they could have used for job creation and pay raises. The Confederation of British Industry has even cut its growth projections for the country, warning that Labour's tax-heavy approach is stifling economic recovery. A report from the Bank of England adds to the grim picture, revealing that many businesses plan to increase prices or cut jobs in response to Labour's policies. It's a perfect storm of bad optics, with critics accusing Starmer of failing to deliver on his promises to boost the economy, while Starmer has defended his actions as tough decisions necessary to put the country back on track. His remarks have done little to quell the growing discontent. In an interview with the BBC, he admitted that his policies weren't always popular, but insisted they were for the greater good. He claimed that voters would ultimately be better off with improved healthcare, housing, and energy costs by the end of his parliamentary term. Yet many wonder how that could be true when taxes are at historic highs and everyday costs continue to soar. Starmer's 6 milestones unveiled as part of Labour's vision for the country have also come under fire. These pledges, ranging from building 1.5 million homes to ending hospital backlogs, have been dismissed by critics as overly ambitious and unattainable. Even councils have raised concerns about the feasibility of the housing target, labeling it unrealistic. It doesn't help that Labour's track record on housing reform has been riddled with delays and bureaucratic red tape. Adding fuel to the fire is Labour's mixed messaging on migration. While Starmer has vowed to reduce migration levels, his 6 pledges notably lack a measurable target for achieving this goal. This omission hasn't gone unnoticed, with Conservative leader KY Bardino mocking Labour's inability to commit to a clear plan. The issue of migration remains a sore point for many voters, and Labor's reluctance to tackle it head-on only adds to their frustrations. But not everything has been doom and gloom for the Labour government. In a rare win, Starmer announced a £500 million train deal that saved 700 jobs at Hitachi's factory in County Durham. The agreement has been hailed as a victory for British industry, providing much-needed stability for the workforce. And local communities standing before the factor's employees, Starmer called the deal a testament to Labour's commitment to supporting UK manufacturing. For once his message resonated, workers expressed relief at the news, grateful for the security it offered ahead of the holiday season. Still, the celebration was short-lived. Critics were quick to point out that the Hitachi deal only offers temporary relief. The long-term viability of the factory remains uncertain, with industry leaders warning that more needs to be done to secure its future. Northern leaders like Ben Hinn have urged Labour not to rest on their laurels, emphasizing that the fight for stable manufacturing jobs is far from over. The pressure is on Labour to follow through with additional measures to safeguard the sector. The Hitachi deal also raises questions about Labour's broader economic strategy. While the agreement is undoubtedly a positive step, it highlights the challenges of balancing public and private sector interests. Labour's heavy reliance on tax increases to fund its ambitious agenda risks alienating the very businesses it claims to support. Critics argue that the government's approach is short-sighted, prioritizing immediate gains over sustainable growth. As the weeks go by, Starmer's approval ratings continue to slip, once riding high after his election. Victory, the Prime Minister now finds himself struggling to maintain public trust. His explanation: tough decisions often come with unpopularity. But this excuse is wearing thin for many voters, who are growing impatient for tangible results. The cost of living crisis remains a pressing issue, and Labour's measures have yet to provide meaningful relief, even within his own party. Murmur of dissent are beginning to emerge. Some Labour MPs privately question whether Starmer's approach is too cautious, fearing it could cost them crucial support in the next election. Others worry that the government's messaging is too muddled, leaving voters confused about Labour's priorities. These internal divisions threaten to undermine Labour's ability to present a united front, further eroding public confidence. Meanwhile, the Conservatives are capitalizing on Labour's missteps, painting them as a government in disarray. Kemi Bano has been particularly vocal, accusing Labour of being unprepared for the challenges of leadership. Her critiques have gained traction, with many voters questioning whether Labour was truly ready to govern after 14 years in opposition, as Starmer faces mounting challenges. One thing is clear: the stakes couldn't be higher. His government's ability to navigate these turbulent waters will determine whether Labour can hold on to power, or whether the Conservatives will seize the opportunity to reclaim the reins. For now, the Prime Minister remains defiant, urging voters to judge him at the end of his term. But with the pressure mounting and public patience wearing thin, the question remains: will voters give him the chance? Starmer's next moves will be critical. Will he double down on his current strategy, risking further backlash? Or will he pivot to address the growing concerns of voters and businesses alike? The answer could define his legacy and the future of the Labour Party.